Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I'm David, I'm the Parks and Recreation Director. Thank you for coming. I'm one to start on time, so we said 6 o'clock, so we'll start. Today, Laura Bryan, who's the Assistant Parks and Recreation Director, is here. Jay Burgess is the Public Property Superintendent for General Services. We have 3 city councilors. Speeches, no, it's not election season, so we're good. Famous last words. Tonight's really informal. We have about 10 slides to go over, a little bit of the history, a little bit of the pools, and then it's going to be a conversation. Currently, the next year's budget, Garrison Pool is the next pool to be renovated. So the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board and City Council, and is it a splash pad? Is it a pool? Is it something else? So it's just a good opportunity to have a conversation with you guys, the residents, being close. So quick overview of the city pools, overview of the pool operation. I don't know how many folks know, but General Services, Public Properties, they do all the maintenance. So they will start actually working on the pools in late April for us to try to be open mid-June, and then they close down the pools in August. And it takes them some time till almost November at times, depending on when the pools are. Renovate, splash pad, a pool, and then some questions. I'm sure everybody knows the history of Concord. We have had 7 pools since the 1930s. Going back in the history books, the first history mention of a pool was in 1919 when they were talking about adding a wading pool at White Park. In the 1930s, all the pools were created out of cement. There's some mention of, in 1930, of a wading pool at Rollins, but it wasn't paved. And then there was a wading pool at White Park, but it wasn't paved. So I haven't figured out what that means. I don't know if it was spring-fed, but we've had 7 outdoor pools since the 1930s. 1930, I'm not sure the population, but that's per pool, per person is probably pretty good. I think everybody could have had a pool. As we think about pools in today's world, in the 1930s, very few people had their own pools. They didn't have the ability to have a pool in their own backyard. So when you fast forward to now, we still have 7 pools. Well, one's a splash pad, 6 pools, but there is a lot more private pools in Concord. So let's just keep that in mind. Approximately every 20 years, a city has to go through this process of renovating pools. The last time this was done is in the mid and late 1990s. General Services, mostly Jay and his great crew, they oversee the construction for us. So Rolfe Park, Kimball, Keach, and Merrill have all been done. I don't know if anybody went to White Park, but the White Park splash pad last year opened, and that is by far the busiest pool we have now. The remaining 2 pools is Garrison and then Rolfe. So we're here to talk about Garrison. Right now, the proposed budget is $575,000. Jay will have to fine tune, that's what's in the budget. City Council will start looking at the budget mid-May for consideration in next year's capital improvement plan. This is just a picture of Rolfe Park. Renovation is renovation. It's basically a new pool. If you have specifics about the pools and what was done, Jay is here, so Jay's here. All of the new pools have 0 entry. All the pools before were ADA compliant. 0 entry is a higher level. You can go in there with a wheelchair. All the other ones used to have smaller ramps, or we used to have the old hand crank ADA lifts that staff would lower people into the water. Benefits of a renovated pool. That's White Park. White Park was 2.5 feet deep. When we redid the pool last year, Jay and his team did a great job carrying over some of what White Park used to be with the mushrooms and the buckets and everything that dumped on. Splash pad is fully all inclusive. Wheelchairs, you can go right in. Doesn't matter what your ability is, you can enjoy the splash pad. And if anybody has questions as I'm talking, just please raise your hand, because
How deep is the splash pad?
0. Splash pad is just a lot of squirty waters back and forth, and things dump. There's no. It's great for little kids. There's no water that.
There's not even like 2 inches?
Nope.
Wow.
Nope.
Guess we would check that.
Yep. Great question.
I think you have one more.
Oh.
Is there an age limit on the splash pad?
The question is there an age limit on the splash pad? There is not. Splash pads are great for cooling down. They're great for little kids. Parents of young kids, there's no stress. Anybody with kids around water, you always have 3 eyes on the kid who is in the water, and it's just a lot of stress. So the benefit of a splash pad is you still have to supervise your kids, but there's less. And we'll get into a little bit of difference. Splash pad is also could be a longer season. There's less staff, but we'll get into that in a few minutes. Like I said, general services, Jay and his team, he handles all of the maintenance of the pools. Parks and Rec handles the staffing, the hiring, the lifeguards, closing pools, scheduling, swim lessons and stuff. Like I said, Jay, do you want to say anything about maintenance, or are we?
Sure, it's,
For the record.
the maintenance is obviously a pretty big part of any of the swimming pool work. We were very concerned about the water quality. We want to make sure that the water in the public swimming pools meet the state standards and obviously are safe for everybody to use. So we're going to be starting the swimming pool prep probably within the next couple of weeks. So it's actually a little bit closer to the beginning of April we start. Process starts, we pump down any residual water that may be in the pools. We clean them, we pressure wash them, remove all the debris, and then start the kind of time-consuming process of starting any repairs that need to be done we'll make. And then we fill the pools and treat them and have them all nice and ready for everybody, usually around the 3rd week of June. In addition to the pools, we ready the bathhouses, reinstall all the lavatory fixtures, make sure that the fences are all repaired, plenty of lighting, and help the recreation staff get trained, get all their equipment there, and ready to go for the season that I think everybody's looking forward to.
Any questions on maintenance? You can speak loudly, but here so that.
Okay. So Garrison Park Pool has been closed for about 4 years. Does it really need the maintenance if it has not been used in 4 years? Could we forego that and open it as usual?
Sure, and so we did actually get it ready. I think it was the year after COVID, so probably 2021. We did prepare it and filled it full of water, made it ready to go. So essentially it was ready to go, but because of the staffing, we weren't able to staff it. Garrison Pool actually has an extensive amount of repair work that needs to be done. Just a little bit of a half a step back on how these pools are constructed. Essentially, they're concrete shells that are, they call it shotcrete, and it's basically a sprayed concrete that goes onto the reinforcement bar shell. So it's kind of like a bathtub. But the finish that this shotcrete produces is it's very rough. You wouldn't want to use it in your bare feet. So we put plaster on the inside of the pool. The plaster is what's degrading at the pool right now at Garrison. There's also issues with the coping. It's been a number of years. It's an older style coping. The tiles are beginning to pop. So there's an extensive amount of repair work needed at Garrison if we want to get it open this year. Did you have a question?
And I think it's related to maintenance. I mean, even if you have a backyard pool, it takes a long time to clean it, to get the water. There's pipes everywhere. Every now and again, they're frozen, they're not frozen. Do the pumps all work? Sometimes they have to rebuild pumps. So that's what Jay and his crew does for us every year. So thank you. Obviously, the Parks and Recreation Department, we handle hiring and training the staff, the marketing of the pool, selling the pool passes for non-residents. swim lessons. If anybody out there is looking for a job, we are hiring. We have around 40 positions open, so spread the word. I know this is a really big table that I'll have this online, but this is the pool attendance since 2000. It kind of just shows the highest used pools and the least used pools. So right here, these 20 summers right here between 2000 and 2019, 16 of those summers, Garrison Pool had the least attendance. And the other 4 years, it was shared between Merrill and Kimball. Obviously, 2020, COVID arrived. We weren't managed, we didn't open any pools. 2021, like Jay said, we tried. The goal was to open all 7. We started off with 4, and then I think mid-season we were able to open Kimball for a few weeks. Then we had staffing issues, so that was a short season. 2022, slightly different. We opened 4 pools, and then we were able to open White halfway through, a little late because we had the staffing to do that. 23, we opened 6 of the 7 pools, and that was 100% related to staffing. Again, this will be online. I did not highlight it, but if you look at 2023 all the way to the end, White Park, 11,000 people showed up. Our staff counts people coming in every is it hour and a half, 12:30, 2 hours. So it's people come in, people go out, and when we count how many people, that is the highest pool attendance we've had in. I started in 1998, so even 20 years ago, when we had 2,000 more kids in town, it blew away the attendance. So it's extremely popular. Yes, I'm coming to you because you're going to be on TV.
Is there a way for us to know if that, the number of people at White Park Splash Pad were actually Concord residents or non-residents?
Great question. The question was, how do we track resident and non-residents? You're almost getting ahead of yourself, so you were part of planted the question. I'll get there in 2 seconds. 2019 was the last year Garrison Pool was open, so we went back and said, hey, let's look at the swim lesson numbers just to compare. So these are the 4 pools that had the same number of swim lessons offered. So we had 6 different classes, 4 different sessions. So Garrison had 78 participants, Rolfe had 84, Merrill 128, and Rollins 136. So it's just information regarding swim lessons, because if we do a splash pad, we're not going to do swim lessons. We haven't had swim lessons there the past 4 years, but just from a information. Here's the non-resident family pass question. We do not track who's coming into the pool. Long as you're a resident, you get in. Non-residents have to show us their pass, but it doesn't mean we know how many non-residents came in a particular day. We just know they have a pass, they can come in. So does that answer your question on non-resident passes?
Well, I was just, we have frequented the pool. Garrison is really our home pool. I was just wondering, because 12,000, 11,000 some odd is a really huge number. It equals everyone that combined frequented all of the other pools. So I was just, it's interesting to me because I know that people who go to splash pads kind of have a lot of kids, but that number doesn't, it seems weird that there were as many people visiting the splash pad as all of the other pools combined.
So we check the pool attendance 3 times a day. So it's a snapshot. So it's a snapshot at that moment in time. So there could be more people coming and going, or it could be a smaller number who just stayed there longer, and they might have been counted twice. Okay. It's not an electronic. We don't have little chips everywhere. We don't have a card for all the pools. So it's a moment in time that's we do at every single pool, but it is a true reflection. Is it one kid coming and going many times potentially?
I just have a problem with splash pad.
Hold on, somebody, it's gonna be on TV, come on.
Okay, but the thing is, what about the older kids? I mean, you can't be swimming there.
Right.
What about the older kids?
So,
It's just for the little ones.
so the question was,
What about the adults? They
That-
want to go and take a splash.
we're coming to that great question next.
I have a question.
Yes, hold on. Mike's gonna yell at me if I don't. get
No,
it.
I've got this.
You got
You don't
that?
have to,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Does the attendance also count for pool closures? Because it seemed like in the last summers that Garrison was open, it was closing a lot because the staff was being deployed to other pools. And I'm just, so that would naturally bring the attendance down because we couldn't go.
Anytime the pool's closed for thunder and lightning, we don't count that. It's only when the pool is open.
This was more, I think, about staffing, like deploying Garrison to other pools.
Yeah, if you look back, the main stat, whoops, I'm getting ahead of myself. We were fairly good with staffing all the pools prior to COVID. Was it always a challenge, last minute? Yes, I think everybody remembers our last minute emails going out early June. We can't open all the pools until we get all the applicants, and they always come in. So it's more related to number of staff. I don't know if Garrison was closed more than any other pool.
Felt like
So Garrison Park itself, relatively small park. We have 12 to 14 parking spaces on site. We have a playground, got some hiking trails, 2 outdoor basketball courts. This is part of the location of Concord's oldest park. Our oldest park was 1881, when we used to have a park on the Pennacook Lake, and now it's the waterworks. So, we have clean water. So, but there used to be a paddle steamer on the lake and a nice big pavilion. So we won't go there. So Garrison Park is a small but mighty park. So part of the conversation and what we're thinking, and this is not a complete list. This is where conversations are going to happen. Keeping it as a pool, it would be the similar size as it is today. We'd be able to offer swim lessons. It does require 3 lifeguards to be on duty to open the pool. Staffing is remaining a challenge, and it will continue to be a challenge for years to come. It would have a similar season in other pools. It opened mid to late June when school's out. We're open till mid-August when all the kids go back to school or college. You convert it to a splash pad. It only requires 1 employee to be on site to open. You can have a slightly longer season because you only have 1 person to be there. However, you're not able to offer swim lessons. It's not good for the older kids because they want to have a deeper pool. And we have limited on-site parking. And everything from water quality, Jay's maintenance needs. He can get into splash pads are better for water conservation versus the pool. If you have questions on that, he's here to answer those. But general services similarly will have a similar type of expense for both pools. So it's not a major cost savings per se. What anything to do with, so.
Can I ask 3 questions?
Only if other 2, no one else is having a question, yes.
Okay, so because the splash pad is obviously so popular, could we add some features because Garrison has a nice shallow end, and then it has a long lanes for adults or swimmers. Could we add some features when we renovate it, like the whale that was at White Park, to the shallower end to make it to give it a splash pad feel for those people that are looking for that kind of feature? But keep the pool.
I don't think that can be done together. There's a couple of issues. One is specifically with the pitch. In order to make the accessible entry like we've done on all the pools we've recently renovated, which I think everybody loves. It allows the younger kids to come in and maybe not going too deep really fast. That's been a big hit. We've been really happy with that. We've got the gusher jets that is a kind of a play feature. But if it was, particularly because of the constraints on that site, and David, maybe if you could pop back just one slide to get the aerial view. Garrison's tight anyway. We're right up against the brook, which is the outfall or the overflow for the Pennacook Lake. So there's not a lot of room there, and there's also a fairly substantial grade change as we get up towards Second Start. It actually picks up on both sides there. So we don't have a lot of room there. So I guess essentially, and I'm not familiar with anything, I think that, let's call it a hybrid. I think if we were to look at a hybrid, it would probably be very similar to what White Park was, about 2 feet deep with those particular type of features. It needs to be flat. All of the features need to be essentially mounted on something flat. And you need to be able to, I think in order to get the full experience, you need to be able to kind of work your way around them.
All right, question number 2, this is David. Will there be free swim lessons through Concord Housing and Redevelopment?
We have recently sent the letter asking for that. We do not know yet.
And then last question is, from 21, 22, 23, what was the starting pay rate for lifeguards in 21, 22, 23, and this year?
I don't have that on top of my head.
I think in 21 we were still around like the 12-hour or
Or
$12 an hour mark, and then we went to like 13, 14, and this year it starts at 16.
Starts at 16, because I think that contributes a lot to staffing.
I'm wondering if the 78 count that you have for lessons at Garrison, is that primarily residents or from First Start?
We did not include group lessons. Group lessons we do on Friday mornings, so we did not include this. So I can go in and look and see who the residents and non-residents. We have the data, but I just pulled out.
That's okay.
I just pulled out
I was
numbers.
just wondering if most of them were from First Start.
Yeah, we didn't. Great question. We did not include them.
I'm a long-term resident. I grew up right next door and I still live on this end of town. So I remember Garrison when there was the baby pool and then a pool above. I had my first bee sting there. My kids grew up going to this pool as well. My thoughts with a splash pad, like we have a lot of teenagers on this end of town that like to bike around and either like they can go down to Rolf, but now that there's that daycare that's going to be open up, they take up a lot of the space at that pool. And teenagers are going to want to swim and not be on a splash pad. And if that's not an option and Rolf's not an option, then I'm worried they're going to go down to the river. And then also, like with the parking issue, typically the younger kids are the ones using the splash pad, and parents are going to have to drive them there, and then parking will be an issue for the younger kids.
Yes, great comments. And at Garrison too, there's limited on-street parking on both sides.
Yeah.
As you crest the hill and you get past Second Start, there's probably enough for 5 or 6 cars on the left where the basketball court is, but then after that, it is posted no parking. So the comment about limited on-street parking, it's important because it will be busier. Mike, do you need me down there with the mic or no?
So, as part of the renovations, will the parking be modified, or are we only looking at modifying the pool area?
Great question. Right now, it's just the pool area. I think if we were not anticipating making more paved surface or more parking, but as you're the residents, you guys are going to be the users, or you're going to know friends and family who are the users, and if that's something we have to look into going forward, we'd have to do that.
Well, the parking, the kids around the neighborhood are walk to it, take their bikes.
Correct.
The little kids, the babies are gonna need someone to drive the car down to bring them. I don't think it's an issue with the parking, because the kids have nothing to do, so they'll just walk down or take a bike or be dropped off. So I don't see a problem with that.
I think parking would just be, if you're adding more features to the pool, or you're adding it more as a destination, 12 to 14 parking spaces is not enough. It would be my concern if you were going to add stuff to it.
David, is there a bike rack there?
We do have bike racks in all pools, most of the parks we have. Might not be one there now because the pool has not been,
There was one next to the basketball court.
yeah. I don't know, it's still one? Yes. So yes, there is. So we're here just to have a conversation, regarding what you as residents want. Is there a strong feeling one way or the other? Pool, splash pad, continued conversation with city council? Yes.
I just wanted to share, my name's Megan, I'm a resident on Lake Street. And I live there with my husband and 2 children, 1-year-old daughter and 4-year-old daughter. One thing I wanted to share before I get into my own points of view, both my children do go to First Start. And I did talk to the director, Sally Wood, about this question. She wasn't able to make it tonight. And despite the fact that her feedback's a little different than mine, I did want her sort of voice present here. But she was really excited about the splash pad just because it would be so great for that particular age group. But she said that either way, she loves that the kids also have access to after school swimming through the daycare as well when the pool is open. From my own perspective, I can't remember if I already said I moved to the neighborhood in 2019. So we just had 2 weeks of the season that year where we were able to use the pool. We went a number of times. The hours were really wonderful. I love that there's evening hours. The environment of that particular pool compared to others in the city is just really nice. It's very peaceful and quiet. And there just really isn't another pool like it. So we were, even in that short period of time, really able to enjoy the pool at that time with our first newborn daughter. Now, I understand the next year is closed because of COVID, but since then, I do feel that the city has made a false choice not to open that pool compared to others because the neighborhood has really changed dramatically. You cited year after year that your reasoning for not opening the pool has been due to low occupancy, which you did show the data for that, and low staffing, which I understand. But from my own observations as a new family in the neighborhood, walking around, just people I know, just on Lake Street and the nearby streets around Garrison, I counted up 21 new children who have been born or moved into the neighborhood since 2019. I also did a search on Zillow of homes that have been sold and bought since 2021, and there have been 71 homes that have changed ownership since 2021. So it's a neighborhood that has changed dramatically because of the pandemic, changing demographics, whatnot. And I just don't think that the decision making around old use data really reflects the needs of this community. Additionally, the pool serves many of our high density, low income communities in Eastern Pennacook. It's walkable from there when the actual Rolfe pool is much further away. And so I think it's an opportunity for the city to serve those groups as well. Personally, just in the time that the pool has been closed since 2019, that's enough years that many kids would have aged out of a splash pad. I just really like that a pool offers my family, my girls, as they grow up in this community, sustained long-term access to the opportunity to cool down, to learn to swim, that I think provides us more benefit than just a splash pad would. So I really appreciate you inviting us here and the opportunity to share some of this feedback, but I really hope that it will remain a pool.
Thank you for sharing that. That's great, great information. Do I need to go over there, Mike? Are you good?
My name is Shauna, and I live on North State Street, right around the corner from Garrison. We've lived there for 14 years. I also work here, so I know a lot of the kids. We miss the pool greatly. We spent a lot of time there. Now we go down to Ralph Park, which, like you said, the community feel there it's not the same. Everybody knows everybody up here. But also this past summer and the summer before, every day I do summer school here. I go get my own kids and we go to Ralph Park, I can confidently say at least 50% of the kids in that pool every single day were Beaver Meadow kids. So would it be easier for them to go right here? Absolutely. I also know a lot of kids that don't have parents that have cars or have one car, but one parent takes that car to work. So they're sitting home all day with nothing to do and nowhere to go. They're walking distance to the pool. But they're not splash pad kids. Splash pads are really for the younger ones, and we have one of those in town. So if you're gonna drive to a splash pad, drive to White's Park. I think another pool would be really beneficial.
This is exactly why we're having the conversation with everybody. I mean, so there's no decisions been made, it's more of a conversation. So again, thank you for sharing. We'll come back.
Okay, I agree with a lot of the points that were made about the limited use of the splash pad and things like that. The one point I'd like to emphasize is safety. We live next to the Merrimack River. We have other rivers going through town. We have the quarries. These kids are going to end up at the river at some point. They need to know how to swim before they get to the river. If we continue to have this pool closed, these kids are going to go somewhere. And they're going to go to the river. They're going to go to the reservoir if they can't make it to another pool. So safety is the reason to have a swimming pool. It's a huge concern.
Thank you. Somebody had to go all the way back?
Yeah. Like Meg, I am also a parent of a kiddo who goes to First Start, also lives, Meg's my neighbor, so we live very close. And I just wanted to second everything that she said. I also feel very strongly that I think there's a much broader appeal, to a pool versus a splash pad. I think it's better long-term investment, for the people in the community, like Meg pointed out. So yeah, I don't know how many other individuals have, young kiddos, maybe even in First Start, who are also, local to the area. But yeah, I could say from that perspective, pool all the way.
Again, this is a once in 20-year conversation, so this is why we're having it. It's, when we go to city council, the city council decides to appropriate the funds, it's your funds, and we're trying to do the best of our ability to get there, so that's good. One here, and I'll come back to you.
I know we've spent a lot of time talking about kids, and they're great. Garrison was the first pool that Nora ever went into when we moved in 10 years ago. But I also selfishly would like to talk about the adults, because I think after my kids are gone, I'll still live at my house and I'll still want to swim, and my husband will still want to swim. And I think older adults here in the community also want to have a place to cool down and relax. And we used to see that a lot when we were at Garrison, that it wasn't just kids by themselves or moms with little kids. There was a whole array of people that went to the pool.
Especially when they were open at night.
Right. After
after work. So I started going to Garrison Pool when I was 11 years old and spent every summer there, all summers. Like, it was the most amazing thing. It was great. I left town for 20 years. I lived in Los Angeles. Apartment had a pool, so I got really used to always having access. And I moved back in 2020. I haven't been able to go to the pool. And it's been pretty sad for me. And I live right at the base of Ninth Street. Like I said, I was saying, somebody was like, go over to Rolf, and it's great, but like 2 minutes. I could be up the street and in the water when it's 95 degrees, and I want to take a little bit of a break rather than pack my car. And I don't have kids. I'm a single woman without any children. I'm not going to the splash pad. I would feel weird going to the splash pad with a lot of kids around. Like, it's not what I would want. Going to a pool with kids it's a different feel. And, just as an adult, I echo that. Like, I miss having the ability to just go and cool off and hang out and enjoy the local neighborhood pool.
I think the neighborhood pool concept, when I first came here 20-something years ago, was strange. But every pool has its own character.
Mm-hmm.
So it's representative of each neighborhood. And it's 7 pools are a lot for the community this side, but it does have its own character. Each pool has a different character. And I think that's important from the neighborhood point of view. Yes, way in the back.
Good evening. My name is Paul Lilius, and I've been around the West Concord area and the Concord area for my entire life. And I enjoyed many times swimming at the Garrison Pool, as at the time of my youth, it was probably the newest pool in Concord. At the same time, they had the full-size pool, they had a small circular pool, as I recall. I'm not sure if that's still there or not, I haven't been up there. But that seemed to serve both, perhaps both needs, however, not as safe as a splash pad. Maybe there's a way the city can incorporate both and achieve goals for both desires. But I think I'm in favor of the pool over and above a splash pad, as I think the city of Concord and the residents in the area, in the city, need a place to teach their children how to swim, other than the Merrimack River, with the strong currents and so forth.
Question.
Thank you.
I've never heard of the round pool in Garrison.
Yeah.
I've never even been.
Yeah, there's a
So when
round.
I came-
Yeah, there was a round.
So when I came,
Yeah.
I've been with the city a long time, so '98, we opened White Park in Rollins, that's when they first started. So Garrison was done a couple of years prior. So was it early '90s? 80s?
It was
So
the
both-
80s, yeah. We moved to town in 86. And there was the small, round, shallow, it was like the 2 feet, like White Park or 1 foot even. And
Yeah, we still have that at Rolf. Rolf still has a baby pool.
Yeah, so like even as like a preteen, sometimes like we'd play in the pool and then sometimes we'd go over and just
I get
sit
yelled
in the
at, so
shallow
you-
water.
so little kids go-
Yeah, but like yeah, it was a really great feature.
That's
to
the
have
first-
over.
that's the first
Totally
time I've heard
separate
it.
areas, like the pool was up here and then the
Yeah, and the
circular pool was down here.
It wasn't that clean.
And what-
I don't
wasn't that
remember it
clean?
not being
No,
clean when I
okay.
was a kid.
Hold on.
I kind of see both sides. I worked at First Start. I now work at Pennacook Community Center, which is being rebuilt by Boys and Girls Club. I have a young daughter myself. I was in favor of the splash pad, but hearing you guys talk, I think it would be more beneficial to have a pool, but if we could have a section that's shallower for smaller kids, I think that would be beneficial for both First Start and for the community. So if that's an option, I think that would be a really great option.
Thank you for sharing that. Right here, and then we're gonna come back over here. Oh, wait, you haven't spoke yet, way in the back. Gonna be shared here.
Great, thanks. Kind of along the lines of the splash pad question, more on protocol though. Are wheelchairs and gait assistance tools allowed in a zero entry pool?
Yes.
Okay, so the
All pools
lifeguards.
have a special wheelchair to get anybody in with their special aqua wheelchairs. So we have those at all the new renovated pools with the zero entry.
And if they come in with their own wheelchair that is allowed to get wet, like the picture of the little kid at White Park, they can come right into. They're all I'm gonna say all inclusive, they're better access now with that zero entry.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the protocol will be that the lifeguards will not say, no, you can't enter in your wheelchair if you have one.
If you give that, you just call Laura on.
Okay,
That's
thanks.
That's not part of the DNA.
Great.
You had mentioned this is a once in 20-year opportunity. And about 20 years ago, there was a meeting to talk about the master plan for the park. And I saw absolutely nothing change after that. So I'm wondering, is that still in play as far as the entire park goes? I know tonight we're really focusing on the pool, but I'm just wondering what's the bigger picture?
It's wonderful, we have a couple city councilors here, so this is good. Most of the parks have master plans, so master plan is a roadmap for us to go forward and try to make improvements. It comes down to dollars and cents and priorities. So the master plan in here calls for more hiking trails and it's not developed, but there's some hiking trails there. I think the city, probably 10 years ago.
And a sliding hill and a little like concert
Correct.
venue kind of thing.
So it's still there, we don't, it just comes down to what the priorities are, unfortunately.
Yeah, in the budget.
Yeah, the budget. But I'm glad you're part of that, that's good. Yes?
Just a quick comment, if you do, for whatever reason, end up going the splash pad route, you really need to, you were saying that parents can go there and relax. Well, White Park has no comfortable seating. It's horrible. So you need to put seating in for the parents to actually sit there and relax too, if you end up going that
We
direction.
received that feedback last year. Thank you, yes.
If you create a pool here and all of the city pools are up and running and great, and then you're still short-staffed, would it then just be alternating closing pools, or what would be the plan when being short-staffed?
Great question. Not clear on that right now.
But you wouldn't close down one entire pool, or you just?
It's gonna come down to staffing levels, and I think, and look to Jay, for him to start a pool and us not use it for 2.5 weeks or so, that's a lot of chemicals, a lot of electricity, so I think it's gonna be a similar conversation than we had the past couple, you know. We'll have a better idea of the staffing levels come early May. Right now, we do not have enough, but that's not abnormal for March. And then we have to make those tough decisions, you know, I'm gonna go back in a little bit more detail, but you guys probably, COVID, the world shut down, they stopped offering lifeguard classes. So we usually have 5 or 10 or 12 first-year guards every year. So the second year they come back, we lose some, and then we get a new group. So no new certifications in 2020. 2021, no new certifications. They just started back up. So the people who were still certified, we could open the pools. So now they're back to doing regular lifeguard classes. So hopefully, I haven't talked to Laura about how many returning staff that were first year. We always have, prior years, we always had a group of first year guards that would come back would be our second year guards, and the second year guards would be third. We lost that for 2.5 years. So there's less kids, there's less high school kids, people are more creative with their work, but our hope is we're on the better end of getting certified lifeguards and getting enough lifeguards to come on board. But we won't know that till May. Yes.
I just had a question about hiring because I know staffing is always cited for why Garrison isn't open. And then I had heard, and it could be the rumor mill, that there were lots of applicants, but they weren't able to pass the test. And is that accurate? And is there anything that can be done to remedy that? Not make the test easier or dangerous, but.
It's American Red Cross standards we meet. The city council, city administration was really good. 4 or 5 years ago, we started paying for your lifeguard certification. So 20 people didn't pass, is that the number?
Last year,
Well, the first year we offered it.
we had like 16 people not pass the test.
So
And like 11 of them didn't even get through day one. They just walked. And then we paid for that.
So now what we do now is you take the class, you give us your certification, we pay half at the beginning of summer and half at the other. It's $380 for a lifeguard class. It's a lot of money. But we tried to make it easier, and a lot of people said, hey, money's an issue. Well, we paid a lot of money for people not to take the class.
We can't do anything about the actual class and what that entails. That is way
That's the
above
Red
us.
Cross standards.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't suggest that, but I'm just wondering.
So we do pay for the certification once they come to us with a certification. So, yes.
I have a couple things. First, I wanted to make the comment, you had mentioned the pool and having a splash pad would be more convenient for the little kids. One of the things that made Garrison so appealing, especially this end of town, not only does it have some shade, which is really great compared to some of the pools, but it's always been a zero entry. And so it gets to, I think, like 3 feet deep, no, 2.5 feet deep maybe. And then in the corner was like 3 to 5 feet deep. So it was like you can have your toddler in the shallow end and you can have your bigger, like, like 3rd, 4th grader in the middle. And then you could have like your high schooler like in the deep end, because the deep end is actually like over your head, which is one of the things that made Garrison so awesome. And so
this was the zero entry end right here, and the deepest end was over here.
but then I have a question. When do you have a date for when this decision will be made or what, and then what is the next step?
I'll come back to that, because I have a slide
Okay.
on that. So you're being very patient.
That's right. I'm going back to the closures, pool closures. I'm putting in a plug for rotational closures if they are, required. Don't just close one pool.
Thank you. Any other questions, thoughts, pool, splash pad, variation?
I will just say, as far as the rotation, just from a staffing perspective, we do hire kids at 15. They don't all drive. Some of them ride their bikes, and they can only ride their bikes to certain locations, which does play in to how we close the pools because their parents don't want them. If they live in the south end, they can't ride their bike. Their parents are restrictive on that, or their parents drop them off on their way to work. So there's a lot of factors that play into.
One of your lifeguards does live on Lake Street.
Okay.
Yeah. She's lovely. Her name's Lily.
Let's get 3 more, then we're good.
Yeah, exactly.
So, my daughter has swam forever. She was interested in doing the lifeguarding thing, but she was really nervous about being able to take time off, getting her certification, paying out of her own pocket for the certification, and then not maybe meeting the requirements in order to be reimbursed for that. And therefore, it became something that she didn't want to sacrifice, like her last, she is a sophomore or a freshman in college now, but it was her last summer before, and she wasn't really sure what that meant and the stress and whatever. But related to that, I wonder if part of the reason we don't have a lot of lifeguards maybe from this end of town is because we have kind of the poorer neighborhood, and that maybe parents aren't able to, even though their kid could be a lifeguard, aren't able to put that lifeguard money out there up front. And I don't know if that has been something that anyone has mentioned to you personally or not. I'm wondering if that's.
Many years ago, 6 or 7, but that's when we lost almost $10,000 because people didn't take class. So we thought that might be an issue for some people. They don't have the money up front. So we said, hey, we'll pay. You have to register, but they billed us. So that I don't know if that's a cost of doing business. It just didn't seem worthwhile for us and city administration to spend that kind of money up front and not get anything back. So I don't know what the answer is. It might be a hybrid, but yes.
So, not to throw my son under the bus, but he did apply to be a lifeguard, and he got accepted to go into the training. Nobody ever told him what he was going to be doing, and so he had no idea what he was supposed to be practicing for or whatever. Over the winter, didn't have time to practice swimming, so he could do the things. The very first thing they had to do was it was a lot of years ago, go underwater for a certain amount of time to get something, and he failed, and they told him to go home. So he called me back within a half an hour of dropping him off and was like, come and get me, they kicked me out. So
I don't know if that's the same standard now.
right, but I'm just saying, if I would have put $380 out, and then he was home in 30 minutes, I would discourage anybody from doing that. So I don't know if there's more communication on what
we could mention that to the Red
required.
Cross from a teacher point of view, but it is a national standard. You do have to swim to be a lifeguard. You do have to do CPR and first aid. You do have to go underwater. You have to tread water. I mean, our pools are not all deep, but Rollins' pool, and if this pool becomes a pool again, it's over 6 feet. So it is a strenuous first responder type. It's not like fire department or police, but it is 40+ hours of in the water training that's.
We have given them time to kind of prepare their swimming skills.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't swim like that normally when I swim a lot.
We can, Swim New Hampshire now does all the lifeguarding classes. Karen and Genevieve's is great. She's always willing to work with staff that need a little extra work before she says, hey, you really don't be a lifeguard.
Mm-hmm.
Some kids don't really need to be a lifeguard, but I think that might have changed. I don't know how old your son is, but.
He'll be 18 this year, but yeah, that was his first exemption. He didn't have any pre-anything. He was, okay, you're approved, go show up for Rollins at this time on Saturday morning, and 30 minutes later he was done.
Dave, would it be possible to have the swim instructor pair with a personal trainer to come up with a training plan for somebody who wants to be a lifeguard? Here's a 3-week training plan to get you in shape.
I can tell you Karen Genovese is out straight 7 days a week. They teach swimming lessons and all the summer camps, everything Red Cross goes through her, so we can mention it to her, but I would be surprised if she has the capacity in her staff. They're out straight.
If we could find a personal trainer who would be willing to do that, would the city put it on their website, on the Parks and Rec page where you could sign up for a lifeguard? Just as a suggestion.
We'd have to look into that. I mean, anytime we highlight another business, we try to walk that fine line, but we can look into it. Next steps, back to the question. Obviously, what I'm hearing this evening, it's everybody would prefer a pool. If there is a way to put a hybrid something in, that would be okay too. What we do is we're going to report back to the Recreation Park Advisory Board. They're the one to ask us to have community meeting to make sure, hey, this is the time to have this conversation. Ultimately, we go back to City Council with a recommendation, and then ultimately, City Council looks at the FY25 budget, usually mid-May. The schedule's not out. And it'll be up to City Council to fund the renovation or not. If they do fund it, Jay and his team is ready to do whatever we need them to do starting later this year. So if you look at all the other pool renovations, as soon as we shut down in August, usually within a week or two, his team and the contractors on site doing the renovation so it can open again the following June for the next season. So that's kind of the plan concept. Yes?
Did I understand correctly, though, that the pool is not in a condition to open this year? That it has to be renovated first?
We need to do extensive repairs before it could be opened. I would say weeks worth of work, but we could open it.
Thank you.
And more information on that's going to be in our council report, hopefully in April, just to economy of scale and his team, is, how much work, how much money, just to be clear what we have to do.
And again, just a slight caveat is that because we have not run it since 2021, there may be conditions that we're not aware of, but we do know up front that there's a substantial amount of work that needs to be done that we see. What we don't see, but we know that there's a lot of work to get that pool open.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm very discouraged about that because this neighborhood, our neighborhood, we've tolerated for 4 years not having any pool except for a very brief time. And now we're looking at the potential for this year, we won't have a pool. Again, because of these potential barriers, because staffing barriers, and we're hearing pretty loud and clear that there were other pools that were just as close in low attendance, but we were put to the bottom of the list instead of being rotated. And if we'd have been rotated, we would know with certainty what the condition of the pool would be this year. So I'm feeling for the neighborhood and the people that are here that if we're backburnered again, we're starting to wonder why we're supporting all the pools. Sorry, I don't mean to speak for everybody, but.
I disagree with Jenny just a little bit. And that's very brave of me. To me, if we're gonna sink money into reconditioning this so that we can open it for 3 months, doesn't make sense fiscally. It seems to me that, with all due respect, that waiting 1 more year and just getting into the whole redesign sounds to me more fiscally responsible than putting in 2 weeks worth of work and then opening for 3 months.
You're not in trouble. My empathetic side wanted the pool to be open.
Yes.
I'm just thinking about parking and wondering if there are any opportunities, if there is a new pool, which would be an attraction for this community and also probably folks from a slightly bigger radius than we're imagining, how could we accommodate? Like, neighborhood kids could get here, but a brand new pool will attract people. Is there any space at all?
Very limited.
There is also a bus stop at the bottom of Hutchins.
That's great. You should have bus stops at all our pools.
At
They don't
nighttime,
come
it
from
seemed
a lot
like
of
people
work
would
too.
also park in the first start.
Say that again.
At nighttime, when the
Yeah.
pool was open, it seemed like people would park in the first start
Great,
area
thank you
too, or
for
at the
that
church,
information.
down the street.
And on the grass.
And on the grass, yes. You can park on in our driveway.
Little plug, we need to hire lifeguards, we need to hire water safety instructors. So if you know anybody, minimum age is 15, all the way up to mid-20s, we have some staff, so applications are online. Laura's and her team is interviewing almost weekly. Some of the lifeguard classes are filled up at Swim New Hampshire, but they're always adding more, so you can go to swimnh.com. And their lifeguard lesson information is there, so. That's all we have, thank you, I appreciate your feedback, it was candid, this is the conversation that we, and the feedback we wanted to do, so we can make a recommendation to the Recreation Park Advisory Board and the City Council, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.